After all art is experience.
Gary and Neil, thank you so much for joining the Company Doctor. We were just saying it's weird, Gary, to be welcoming you to your own podcast, but
yeah, welcome, Gary. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you.
I've explained how it all works, so that you're au fait with the format. But no, it's an exciting episode today because we are, a lot of people will know Gary as the host of the Company Doctor podcast. They may not know too much about the company that he co-founded 10 years ago with Neil. So we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into what it takes to see a business through 10 years and to, what the challenges are and how you continue to grow in at times quite a tricky landscape. So firstly, thank you both for joining for this one. And it might be worth, as I said, even though the listeners will know Gary in his host capacity, it might be good if you don't mind, both of you, just introing yourself and one of you giving us a brief overview of what SmartTasking is.
Perfect. Yeah, good. Thanks, George. Good to see you, Gary. Yeah, so introduce yourself. So co-founder along with Gary of SmartTasking, and 10 years we've been running now, which is really good. So really, SmartTasking, brief intro, we really specialize in helping companies improve their performance, whether it be top line, go-to-market growth, or bottom line efficiency and optimization of what they actually do. We do that through really a consultant-led engagement, but unlike other consulting companies, we actually then go and embed whatever the thing we're consulting on and make sure it delivers the outcome that our clients are looking for, and we work with a whole range of different kinds of clients with different challenges, but we will deliver an outcome that measures the success of what we've done.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I want to work there.
Yeah, you've got a job, Gary. It's not a problem. You're in.
Nice. And Gary, obviously, as I said, people will know who you are, but maybe within the confines of the company, what's your role there?
Yeah, I'm a CXO, which means Customer Experience Officer, which my wife thinks is very amusing. She thinks I'm like the party animal. That's not what it is. It's to make sure everyone has a good experience, but also, I focus on consulting and delivery of things that we sell, as well as selling things as well.
Excellent stuff. So. Yeah, great. It's a unique sounding title. Take us back, if you will, 10 years to day one. The two of you sort of sit down together and decide to start SmartTasking. What was the sort of the broken model in the market that you were trying to fix when you started SmartTasking?
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because both Neil and I, and I'll let Neil jump in, but Neil and I used to be business consultants. Before that, we worked in corporate land. And in both those areas, we just got really frustrated with a really poor experience. If you bring in consultants, they're just not engaged, and it just wasn't a good experience and didn't always get good outcomes. And as a business consultant, it's really relentless. We had a really good career in business consulting and a good reputation, but it's relentless work. So we decided to fuse together business consulting with out-tasking, which basically is insourcing. So it's taking the solution, but implementing it rather than just telling people this is your problem and leaving them with holding the baby, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of the original idea, but the goal was to give a wow customer experience, so that when people work with us, they get the experience that we always wanted.
Yeah.
We never got.
And it always, as with all excellent businesses, it always sounds like a no-brainer when you explain the sort of fundamentals of it. Were there no other or very few other companies doing that at the time?
There's thousands of companies that do consulting and this type of activity, but not necessarily together. And there are obviously good companies out there that do really good stuff, but it's very hard to nail someone that did both together well, and being small enough and boutique enough to care about it. Sorry, Neil.
Yeah, I think that's the key part. We really wanted to give that really great experience from the start of the engagement to the ongoing running of whatever we do, because we both experienced the receiving end of that, where, to Gary's point, it wasn't quite a good enough experience. So you sort of come away feeling, have I got good value for what I've invested, both time and financial? So we really set up the outset to really make sure we surround ourselves with high quality people, and really make sure that we give those customers a really first class experience. But we're also prepared to be fairly pragmatic about it and sort of tell people that sometimes their baby perhaps is not quite as pretty as they think it is, and it just needs to work on it. I think that's the thing we make a difference. We've been there, sat in their seats, we understand the world they live in, so we actually have some real world experiences that we bring to bear in the opportunity and the engagement. And that's across our whole team. Our whole team have got various real world experience they bring to each of our client engagements, which is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, nice. And I love the fact that you use similar analogies with earning the right to tell someone their baby's ugly, which is great. And it actually leads me on to my next question, which is that, obviously co-founder relationships can be a bit tricky. And yet here you guys are 10 years in. How do your two roles complement each other? And what is the secret to keeping that dynamic sharp after 10 years?
Oh, well, I'll go for that. I think fundamentally, we've grown together over many years. We actually both worked in the same corporate background and have very complementary skills. But underneath our skills, which are very different, my role as CEO is probably a bit broader in terms of making sure we run the company as best we can, but also focus on our sort of engagement, marketing. But really, between the titles, Gary and I both do the same thing. Prepared to challenge each other in a way that no one gets upset, bent out of shape, or takes it personally because we have the same goals and vision we're trying to create for the business we're trying to build together. But we both recognise we bring different things to our relationship and therefore to what we serve to our customers and our teams around us. And in the main, it works very well. But we're both prepared to say, if we don't agree, we'll find a way forward and move forward. That's success in any relationship. But underneath that, I think it really is our values and our goals that really help assure alignment, I think, really.
Yeah, I think it's quite unusual, actually, to have that, because even people who are friends and go on holiday together find out they weren't really aligned after all. It is quite hard to have, because you've got to compromise, and that's the way it goes. And as Neil said, because we've got a very similar value stack, which is massively important, then it kind of works. So we can challenge each other without going upset and throwing toys around. But we generally are like-minded in most things that we do, but we do challenge each other, and it just works. And by the way, we quite like working together, which helps.
Yeah.
Working together for 25 years or something.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we have in our business. We have to enjoy ourselves, right? It's going to be a fun place to be, and it's fun for those that choose to work with us, the clients choose to help them. It's got to be an enjoyable experience. But also, I think the foundation we really have is we're both prepared to say, what do you think about this, Gary? I can't find a solution. What do you think? And we just talk things through. And 9 times out of 10, we'll find something different to approach an opportunity. And that's kind of how it works, I think.
Yeah, nice. And I guess it is often you have to sort of try it first. I mean, as you say, it helps that you worked together for a long time before you started the business. But having that sort of historic relationship helps a lot. But you do have to sort of just try it and hope that it works in those early sort of stages. So SmartTasking, and I was talking about this with Gary yesterday because we met for a delicious Chinese meal. It frequently competes, and from what I can gather, beats much larger, these sort of legacy firms. How do you manage to sort of punch above your weight in that way? And what can other smaller agile companies teach the big sort of incumbents when it comes to delivering value?
Part of our success has been we're kind of business issues driven and outcome focused. So we genuinely care, and it's kind of part of our mentality almost about delivering an outcome and doing what we say in a real, not in a locker slogan kind of way, but in a real way. And so as a boutique business, which is niche in a way, we can do that, go the extra mile, really focus down on it and be treated as an extended team, which you can't really get in a bigger company. And I guess at some point, if we get really big, we'll have to think about how we continue to maintain it. I think that's the kind of high level view. Than what you think now.
I think it often gets mentioned to us when another company's been engaged and perhaps is no longer working with them is we really take the time to sort of go backwards to go forwards. So what I mean by that is let's really understand what is actually going on, what is the real context, why might they be asking for some help, and go backwards a little bit before we go forwards. But during that process, it really gets us to understand the stakeholders, what are their overall objectives, what are their personal objectives, before we even start thinking about how we may shape a solution. So I think that just taking a pause, going back, asking some really good questions and understanding the real context of the situation allows us to bring to bear our resources better and therefore get a better outcome that we deliver.
And I guess, how do you keep an eye on not losing that? Because as the company grows, there's the danger of sort of losing out on those boutique, the things that make you successful and sort of agile and able to provide that sort of service where perhaps bigger companies fall. Have you got an eye on that constantly?
we're masters of the pivot. We're often sitting down and going, what can we do better? It's part of our DNA. What can we improve on? And are we doing things right? A good example is that we, over time, we because we're outcome focused, when we do consulting, we always do an assessment first because you need to understand what the problem is. And then what we found is we do the discovery and make a recommendation. And sometimes people kind of grab hold of that and try to implement it, and they don't have the time or necessarily always the experience. And that doesn't help give them the outcome. So, we're continually looking at better ways to do that and pivot in the market that we're in. I'm sure Neil's got much more wisdom than I on it.
No, I was going to say the same. I think it's really that back to us is if you really understand what you're trying to do through the assessment, we get a really clear view. But we know what it's like sat in our clients' chairs is that they're pushed for time and pushed for the ability to prioritize by having a third party when we are really an extension of their team. So we work really hard at becoming part of what they're doing together. We can't do this to them. We have to work together and partner on it. So we partner really well. And we push to get the outcome we're looking for. So I think that's the thing that often gets complemented back to us is that other times it feels like other consultant companies are trying to do it to the client, and you can't do it. You've got to do it together. Otherwise, it won't embed, and it'll be an investment that won't perhaps give what it should have done in the outcome they're looking for. So I think that ability to understand and partner well, become part of their extended team, but push and challenge them to reach their goal is what stands out for us, I think.
Yeah, nice. And sort of switching that and embedding that in your own team. Obviously, consider it done is something of a motto of yours. And in a world that is, as we all know, very full of corporate jargon, why is the focus on outcomes over activity such a rare thing? And how do you guys embed that into the mindset of your delivery teams?
Yeah, I think we do that by leading by example, right? And consider it done was actually born out of feedback from our clients, really, that we spoke to and said, why us? What makes it different? And lots of words we used really that led us to, what we do, what we say we're going to do, we get stuff done. So that's what we kind of embed it into part of our tag and strapline, really. But how do we ensure that is holding people to account, making sure it's a fair ask, and what we're trying to deliver is the right, appropriate thing to do. But even if we can't deliver on something, we'll make sure we can communicate back to the customer, communicate back to the teams. Don't just ignore or try and avoid that conversation because we know it makes such a big difference. If you're going to do something, you're going to turn up on time, you're going to deliver it on time, you're going to hold yourself to account to the outcome. And sometimes we'll share that risk with the client. We're prepared to put our money on the table because we know we can get the outcome they need. And that really, again, co-creating the outcome, jointly owning it and then delivering it, again, stands out what clients tell us on our successful projects we've delivered.
And then, with staff, your question about development, we work a lot with people in our teams to, a lot of them are like-minded, which is why we hire them. But over time, we help develop people so they have that same mentality. It's like, if it was your business, what would you do? We want people to think like an owner. And I think that really helps. So, and it's such a much better experience for customers if they know that someone generally, they can trust you because it's going to get done. And you're going to give them feedback, even if it's not always good news, but they know that you've got their back. Yeah, most people don't give feedback. So when they're in trouble, you're running a project and it's not going well, you get radio silence. That's not great.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how we work.
No, I think it's spot on. And really to add to that, one of our sort of founding principles is back to our corporate crew. We've had to tolerate people that perhaps don't have the same values as us. So one of the things we're really keen on is making sure that we want to work with people we want to work with and enjoy that time together. So we're quite prepared whether if they don't have the same values or the same mindset, then we'll choose not to work with them, whether that's a team member, a client, an associate that works with us. If they're not our kind of people, there's plenty others out there we'll move on, right? Because they're representing our brand out to the market. So they need to be very like-minded because that's what is SmartTasking. That's what we're known for. So we really hold that to account and ourselves to account on that.
Yeah. And that'll just only work better for you in the long term, won't it? Because I'm sure it must be tempting to just sort of say, yeah, sure, we'll work with anyone because it's bringing the money in. But, that's quite a short-sighted view on things.
No, it's actually George. When you start a company, you just want income. So you say yes to everything. In fact, smart to do any old task they can fancy doing.
Values go out the window early on.
Yeah. And the bill will be paid.
Yeah. Just sort of slightly pivoting. I know you guys are the masters of the pivot. I'm going to pivot slightly towards AI. And obviously, like every industry, everything's changed. The last 10 years have brought massive change. most recently in the form of AI. And I'm sure, like every industry, consulting and resourcing has been sort of flipped on its head by AI and automation, and that's an ongoing process. How is SmartTasking using modern tech, and how do you balance that tech with human expertise?
Yeah, so I'll go first on that one. And it's a topic we've had many people, George, haven't we, on the podcast talking different angles of AI. And actually, there's a theme coming through, which is, and it's a term that we're using because it's really the projects we're working on, which is assistive intelligence, rather than artificial. There's nothing artificial about it, and human driven. Because I think that that recent podcast we did with a group on it kind of came to the fore. So we've got AI in the center, and we've developed a tool set that provides an exec level dashboard and automations to help businesses. And we use it for our own business. We don't use any spreadsheets. It's something we use ourselves. But the work that we do, we use AI to accelerate us. It's a bit like when you're riding one of those bikes and it's got a little electric motor attached. It gives you a little kick up the arse to move it forward a bit further. So, that's how we're assistive intelligence. And I think that's the way it's moving. But we're AI centric in what we do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, into that assistive acceleration part, we use it in our assessment platforms. We're doing diagnostic on our clients. We really use it to help us make us more efficient, but you can't lose that human element. The trend we're definitely seeing is a lot of leadership teams, a lot of companies are invested by investors go, we must have an AI strategy. And you go, well, you must, but you've got to go back a few stages. You don't really have a clean data process. You don't have clean data. You don't have workflow. It's not even automated. So AI just won't help you until you fix some of the foundations. Now, then it may well be the answer that AI can assist you and help it better. But there's just a lot of noise around it, and people don't really think about what actually needs to happen to be able to take advantage of the tools that are available to us. So they're there to take advantage of and help us. There's a lot of debate. Will it replace workflow? It will definitely replace mundane workflow, the low value tasks. But you need the human element on top of it, absolutely. So it should make us more efficient to do higher value tasks.
And a recent example, we do a lot of target operating model work, so helping companies reorganize to be more efficient or to change the way they operate and the ways of working. There's a lot of politics involved in that because you've got to convince one organization to give up something. And so we separate the logic from the emotion, and we're really good at working with people and bringing them on the journey. AI doesn't do that. It doesn't have critical thinking in the same way. So it will probably one day. But right now, you need human intervention as well. Yeah. Twinned with AI in the background.
Yeah, that does seem to be the view that most people are taking currently, and I think it's encouraging to hear. And it's an example of you having evolved, and evolving with the times. And I think things like fractional leadership and outtasking have become a bit of a norm as businesses rethink how they buy in their expertise. How have you found client demand to have shifted over the sort of the past 10 years? And along with sort of adopting new tech and things, how have you evolved to stay ahead of it or stay with the times?
Yeah, I think as much as we are very conscious of our ability to keep pivoting, I think that's something that successful clients have to do. If you're not pivoting to meet the market, meet the conditions, address what changes there are, then you go backwards. So we are good at pivoting. The change we definitely see is that as ever, our decision makers, our buyers are as well educated as they've ever been, right? So they know more about what they want. They're more researched. They're more focused on what they need to try and do. But the buying habits have definitely changed. They're looking much more for a measurable outcome and a deliverable. I think there's a lot of focus on bottom line efficiency, bottom line cost. So every investment pound needs to have a clear connection to what value it's going to bring, what are the consequences we're going to get from making that investment. So I definitely get a sense that appears much more higher on the agenda when I'm talking to clients of why they make an investment decision. So that's really as important. And you're right. The world of a fractional interim, contracted type roles, it's absolutely still there. But the changes, is we're seeing much more like a blended approach. So a lot of our big engagements, we may have a retained fee for a blend of resources depending on what's needed. So we see that much more as therefore it's an outcome decision, not a named set of individuals. This is the task I need to do, and this is what I'm working through. And you might need some different skills on that journey from, to Gary's point, we're designing and building a target operating model. You might have some different skills when you start to embed and operate it. So much more a blended team is what we're seeing across a lot of our major projects. I don't know what you think, Gary.
Yeah, I agree. If we go back over a few years, I can give you an example of that. So during COVID, a lot of technology businesses had good COVID times, if there's such a thing, from a business growth point of view, because everyone was communicating remotely, amongst other things. And because a lot of our customers before were technology companies, we had a good COVID time as well. We grew considerably, but then we started to grow in the kind of resourcing interim part, because that was where the growth was, and it was a market for that. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of that period, it went the opposite way, and we pivoted to be more consulting led, which is how we started anyway, business issues driven, consulting led, and that's had a massive impact on the success of our business over the last 2 years, as an example.
Yeah.
So I think these are tangible things. They're great questions, because they're not just things that they're theoretical things. They're real things that happen, and they can happen in a couple of months, in a 6-month period. Things happen all the time. There's wars, there's COVID, different business change.
And you have to adapt on a dime. You can't. There's no way of foreseeing those things, and you have to just know that and be confident in your ability to sort of to shift.
Absolutely. At least make a proactive, conscious decision to do something. And if it is going to not do anything, well, at least you've made a decision, right? But you can't ignore it. You've got to embrace it, and that's hard for bigger companies. We definitely get that. It's harder for them to do that, but successful ones find a way to do it. But I think it goes back to the foundations of building long-term client relationships for anybody that serves in a B2B market. Unless you're bringing innovation, unless you're bringing something new, unless you bring a different experience to your customers, at some point they won't renew with you, or they'll go somewhere else. And often they describe it as it's just the same old stuff. There's nothing new. Started taken for granted. You only speak to us when it's renewal time of the engagement, rather than coming to us proactively. So it's the foundations of long-term relationships, and that's backed up by our retention of our clients is significantly high. The numbers that we run of clients that repeat buy from us, buy more from us, is a testament to the work we do. And then we add our new relationships based on that. But our retention and upsell of our current customers is very high, and has remained so ever since we started the company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. Yeah, repeat business is the sort of highest form of flattery, isn't it? Sometimes
we love you.
Yes, absolutely.
I've got a question here, which I'm gonna pose it, but I'll ask you to sort of think about it in the background, because I think it's a bit unfair to just throw it at you.
You mean?
And then ask
you question.
Yeah, so it's sort of something to percolate. Well, no, because it's okay. Well, I'll ask it, and then just think about it, and know that I'll come back to it.
One of us to answer it, or is it both of us up for grabs on this?
Well, maybe both of you, or one. Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the question: what are the 3 fundamental things that every business leader needs to survive and scale through 10 years of market changes? So that's a tough one. There will be 3 things, I'm sure, that you can both, after a little bit of mulling, can sort of think, actually, yes, these are the 3 things which I would recommend anyone, skills to develop or mindsets to have. But just know that that's coming. And in the meantime, maybe I'll move on to the next question.
Well, no, actually, I'm kind of ready to throw in one, and then that'll give Neil a chance to do the second one.
Okay, you can sort
3.
of.
Yeah. And these aren't in priority order, but the one, my gut feel is, and we talked about it a lot on this episode, you've got to focus on outcomes. Customers don't come to any company because they want to buy what they're selling. They're buying the result of what they're buying. Mm-hmm. And people forget that. So it's like not features and benefits. People come to SmartTasking because they want a particular outcome, and this is not a glib outcome. And we're absolutely obsessed with outcomes. So that's really helped us, because over the years, even during hard times, people still need the outcome. And therefore, as long as you can deliver it and you take ownership of it and don't try and blame the customer when you don't get there, because you are genuinely focused on it, that makes a massive difference, I'd say, over the last 10 years.
Okay. So number 1 is, in a nutshell,
might not be the first one, but it is definitely one of the 3, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Neil?
Yeah, I think definitely, just to add to that as well, I think people only make an investment for a few reasons, and more often than not, people trying to sell something don't really understand what the outcome they're really looking for, just to add to Gary's point there. I think, again, no particular order, as a business owner, growing a business, you have to surround yourself with capable and people that can be developed, go on the journey with you. So having a good people around you is really, really important. I definitely, I'm a career salesman, but I can find more customers. Finding good people is hard. So you've got to make sure you surround yourself with good people, because they are an extension of you, extension of the business, and they're the ones that deliver those outcomes. So I think that's really important to address any concerns early, make sure you hire well, and make sure you develop your people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one that's up there, again, I don't know if there'll be more, right, because 3 is always hard, is to give an amazing experience. I don't mean everyone, the customers first always, of course, but I don't mean like that. I mean, generally, if customers are centric, you really understand what they're trying to do, which obviously links to the outcome, but then you give them a really good experience at every stage during the whole process, not just in the sales process where you get the jazz hands and customer, you can have everything you like, and then it goes bad, which happens a lot. So the whole customer experience that people talk to us about, what a great experience, nice people, you did what you said you're going to do. You're kind of like our extended team. That's great. That's what we want. That's what we're here for. And if we don't do that, and we wouldn't grow anyway, I think. But that's what differentiates us.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of businesses and a lot of people could learn a lot from it, even if we were to do an episode on that, sort of delivering that end-to-end experience, because I think so much of, as you say, the jazz hands and the good relationship building just drops off the minute that the sort of contract is signed.
And sometimes, George, it's in when things go wrong, right? Things do go wrong, and we're doing projects a lot of the time. But it's how you deal with it. So if something is delayed, you manage the customer's expectations. You don't just be a people pleaser, as we've spoken about before. You say, it's not coming for 3 weeks. I'll do my best to improve on it and take the hit. Because if you just pretend it's going to be okay when it's not, you've just lost your credibility again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
most companies don't understand that.
Speaking of tough times, I think it's fair to say that no company makes it to 10 years without hitting a few walls along the way. And this might be a tricky one, but if there is one single sort of toughest period that SmartTasking faced, what was it, and how did you navigate your way through it?
Yeah, I think I'll take a start on first, Gary. That's Gary's earlier point. We grew rapidly during COVID. We did, but it was in the wrong direction for us. So we knew that it wasn't really sustainable, and it wasn't the kind of company we wanted to have. So that was a pretty tough time for us, because you imagine that generated revenue and generated income. And back to your previous question, any owner of a small business, you really got to keep an eye on your cash and your ability to convert something into physical cash, and the bank is really important. So that pivoted us back to being much more consultant led and building longer term relationships, longer term outcome. And that was a brave decision to make, because we'd come off of a couple of years of growth, but it wasn't the company that Gary and I wanted to have, and we wanted to be an outcome based consultancy business. So we had to pivot back, and that was a pretty tough period of time to do that, because you've got to then reinvent yourself with some of your customers, remind them, educate them, start to show value in a different way. And that takes a bit of time, but we did that successfully, as Gary alluded to earlier. We then had 2 more years of significant growth on the back of that pivot. But it's a brave decision to make, because you got stuff today, but we don't want that for tomorrow. We've got to do something different. So that was a period of time that was one of our bumps in the road, if you like. But we got through it and come out much stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just to sort of, if we stand back from it, George, I think, most people realize, but you don't always think about it, because you see a business that's been moderately successful, whatever. The success is not linear. Because through that journey of 10 years, we've had loads of highs and quite a few lows as well. You get a big customer, you're expected to win something, you don't, you lose a really important customer, you lose people you want, you can't get people you want. We could spend a whole episode on it. But what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I genuinely believe that, you've got to go through the hardships in order to get otherwise you don't know what good looks like. You don't feel good about something, because you got your head down, you work hard, and then you can stand back and go, you know what? In spite of all that, we've done quite well.
Yeah.
And
if you're a business owner and you're listening, it's like, you're going to go through ups and downs, and I'm sure we'll continue to go through ups and downs, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think back to when we sort of started our conversation, one thing that Gary and I have always been very good at from our 25 years of working is sitting down at the end of a period of time and going, what went well, what we do better next time, what can we change? Because we are generally never satisfied, which often for us means we maybe sat down with a glass of wine, right? And that's something else you need to do is don't lose sight of the progress you're making. Don't lose sight of the goals you're attaining, and celebrate that in whatever way is appropriate for you, because those that are reflective learn faster. Those that aren't reflective just keep doing the same stuff and wonder why I don't get a different answer. I think that's probably one of the values that probably Gary and I share the most and hold, is that never satisfied. We're not finished yet. We've still got things to learn. We want to learn from others, from each other. And that's a trait which I think company owners should really take on board. You need to be directive and take the team with you, but you also be prepared to have people better than you around you that bring something different. I think they're how I summarize some of that stuff. And not many, small boutique, perfectly formed companies get to 10 years, right? So it's probably stood us in good stead to keep pivoting, keep learning, keep developing, keep taking advantage of market conditions, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, excellent. That's inspiring stuff. That sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but it genuinely is. And I think, and a lot of the smaller, a lot of small business owners that I know, not that I know loads, but a lot of medium small business owners or people who are starting out, they have that same mentality. They have that sort of, it's almost like a restlessness, and it's not resting on your laurels and putting your feet up and congratulating yourself all the times, although obviously marking celebratory occasions. So yeah, thanks for that. I've got two more questions, and this is sort of bringing me to my wrap up section. And I think we'll talk about. Thanks. Yeah, you can come back anytime.
Welcome.
Yeah. You've launched the 10 strong commitment as you enter the sort of the second decade. What does SmartTasking look like over the next 10 years, and what's the big vision for the company's future?
Yeah, I think what does it look like? We're in growth mode, so we'll continue to grow, we'll continue to pivot, and we'll continue to take advantage of market conditions, whatever they may well be. We'll continue to delight our customers by embracing technology. Our assistive intelligence will underpin pretty much everything we do, and we'll continue to grow on the next 10 years. But who knows what it looks like? The world is changing fast than ever, geopolitical, economic, technology. We're just to keep focused on delivering outcomes for our clients, keep engaging, meeting new clients with different challenges so we learn from them and learn together. But above all, continue to have fun, continue to surround ourselves with people we want to work with. As I said earlier, whether it's a customer, an associate, an employed staff member, we want to work with. And we'll continue to move forward and make a difference in the market.
Yeah, nice. And I was just quickly before Gary jumps in, because I know he's about to. I was lucky enough to be invited to the 10-year anniversary, and there are some excellent people that you work with, and I've met a few of them. So you're certainly surrounding yourself with excellent people. So yeah, just wanted to say that.
That's very kind of thing. Yeah,
I was going to say. Yeah, I was just going to add to what Neil said, which is that part of our challenge of growth will be to maintain the feel that we have and the ethos that we have. Because as you get bigger, it's obviously harder to do that. But that's something we're really focused on, that we grow. Because we don't need to grow for the sake of growth.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a goal to be 10 million this year, but we're already looking to get to 20 million. So we're not stopping. But in order to do that, we're starting to think about what does the organization look like? What type of skills do we need to have? What are the behaviors we need to have? What kind of customers do we want to work with? And so we're always looking and planning and with a bigger picture in mind.
Yeah, good stuff. And then last question, and I'll ask it to both of you, starting with you, Neil, if I may. If the Neil and Gary of 2026 could go back through time and have dinner with 2016 Neil and Gary, what's one piece of advice that you might give them? And what would you have for dinner?
Dinner's pretty easy. It definitely involves red wine with something. But I think our answer to that is don't lose sight of the things you do the most that make the biggest difference. And really, for Gary and I, despite all that's going on, our visibility with our clients, I think, is the thing that has really underpinned that journey. So, do more of that. Find ways to keep doing that, because that's so important for us. And again, that's what comes back. Often comments come back to us is, some of our clients who are on that journey, we've been through multiple different CEOs of our clients, different board members, but we're kind of there as a constant. So we're good at reinventing and building those relationships. And that's something I would definitely would think about doing. We do a lot, try and do more of it, I think, has made a big difference to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say something similar, in that sort of, as a small business, you can only go so deep and so wide with clients. You can't sort of have dedicated account teams and stuff like that. We've been really good at being visible. But I think if I went back and forward again, I would try to help other people be more visible as a collective, because then we get more coverage. because it works. It's network is the most important thing that we've done throughout our careers, both of us.
Yeah.
And that will be my number one takeaway for anyone who's in a business is be visible, network like crazy. But if you network on your own, it doesn't have the same impact as if you network with many.
Nice. Good stuff. Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you both very much. And congratulations on 10 years. Here's to another 10 years.
Thanks, Georgian. That was great. I love this, being in the cold seat of the...
George, very good. Thanks for doing that. It was interesting. Gary sat the other side of that. It was really good. So thanks for doing it. And thanks for your support. You've been part of that 10-year journey as well. So thank you. Yeah, you're part of the journey. So thanks for your support as ever. Very kind.
Good stuff. Thanks, everybody. And thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
See ya.